Okay. All right. The last, but certainly not least session.
Hey,
What's up, Andrew? How are you doing?
good. Happy to be here.
All right. Thanks for making it third year in a row. We were prepping a little bit before. It's meant to be a casual session. Unfortunately, yeah, I don't think everybody knows, but JJ's just not feeling well, so we couldn't join, but sends his best. But Andrew Lee's here, CEO and co-founder of Purse, and of course the Handshake Protocol. And so this is going to be Q&A mostly. So please, everyone, use the Q&A tab, not the chat, but the tab. So I think most of you figured that out from the sessions. I'll be here to help moderate and fill questions if there aren't, but I have a feeling it'll be enough. And then we can get started. I think the first started. What I'm noticing is there's a lot of newer blood here, which is great. So even I don't really know exactly the Orange's story exactly, like we were chatting, because I know you had already had Purse going when Handshake started, and I even thought it kind of was incubated in Purse. So do you mind kind of starting it off with like a little origin story of Handshake, how it
Yeah, for
started?
sure, for sure. Yeah, well, first off, thanks, Mike, for hosting this for 3 years in a row, as well as Jahan and your entire team there. It's been really amazing. I think it's really important for the entire community. So yeah, I appreciate you doing that. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we
had
love it. We love it.
like we had nothing to do with kind of like starting this whole
Yeah,
conference, and yeah,
it's
it
all
just kind of
organic.
happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, your question about kind of the origin story. So, well, and this is, by the way, this is all from my perspective. I don't represent all the other co-founders. I don't represent Handshake. I don't, there's no foundation, there's no company. So, everything I say will just kind of just be from my perspective and my views. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess going back even before Purse and why I got interested in Bitcoin in the first place. I've generally just, I mean, I think I've been most kind of like a rebel like my entire life. I didn't really like being told what to do. And I think I've just kind of optimized for, freedom, personal freedom, and things like that. And, uh, and so, yeah, I mean, I guess when I first found, like, kind of stumbled across, Bitcoin, thought this was really interesting, kind of started this company. But like the way I ran and I ran Purse is I wanted to find other people that kind of had felt the same way about about like personal freedom and things like that. And so I did my best to kind of attract the most interesting, smartest people, that were across the space, including, I've been friends with, JJ Joseph and the other Andrew for a really long time. And even within the company, the way we hired Nodar, and Matt Zipkin and things like that, and we just kind of hired people and just really didn't tell them what to do, and just kind of like ran it like kind of like a studio. So yeah, like the idea to launch Bitcoin was not my idea. JJ just kind of did that, which kind of evolved from a code base perspective into to Handshake. And Handshake itself, well, wasn't my idea either. I mean, it just kind of, brought some people together, JJ, Joseph, and Andrew, and the idea. And I think Aaron kind of mentioned this in his last talk, but like the idea behind, domain names on a blockchain just makes a lot of sense. And so, yeah, we started working on, I guess Bitcoin went live maybe 2015 or 2016. For you guys that don't know, it's a full node Bitcoin implementation and written in Node.js. And then we started thinking, and then around 2017, 18, around kind of like, what can we do with what can we do with this technology that we built, like infrastructure for Bitcoin, beyond kind of like the purpose for Bitcoin. And so I mean, that's kind of where the ideas for Handshake emerged. We did the raise in 2018. We raised $10 million from a lot of these Sandhill type VCs, as well as people in the crypto ecosystem, including Jahan, but also like A16Z, Founders Fund, Sequoia, etc. And we did something interesting. We took that money and just gave it all away. I think we gave it all away in 3 months. We had an SVB account, but it doesn't affect us because we gave all the money away. And
Yeah, no, for
um,
you now, man.
yeah, and that was a while ago, and I guess in 2018, 19, and then the network launched in 2020, and since then, I mean, we've kind of did it Satoshi style. We've been kind of we launched the network and kind of stepped back, for the community to kind of take hold. Yeah, we didn't have anything to do with I guess HandyCon, Namebase, or any of these companies' origins. But yeah, from my perspective, I'm not the creator. I didn't write the code. I didn't design Handshake. I didn't write the white paper. I mean, my role was I brought kind of the smartest people that I could find together. I think Joseph is a world class mechanism designer, responsible for Lightning Network, as well as kind of a lot of the ideas around Ethereum scaling. Um, and JJ is like phenomenal protocol developer.
Yeah.
He rewrote all of Bitcoin, just like, I don't know, I guess in a few months, something that like I don't think any other person or team or anybody could really actually pull off. Yeah, when he first did that, when he first said I'm going to rewrite all of Bitcoin, I was just like, wait, are you sure about that? But he pulled that off, and they pulled off this network, and I think we really, with Handshake, we really brought together, the best mechanism designer, as well as the best, kind of protocol engineer to launch the coin and the network, and it's been, yeah, and that was basically the whole idea from my perspective.
Great, great. Yeah, we're getting questions. So I said it in chat, but I'll say it in audio. Please upvote. So help me out. I'll just try to my best to decide. But it's pretty clear already, some of the top ones. Why the name Handshake? Do you know?
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't come up with the name Handshake either. How did that come about? I mean, I think it had maybe something to do with like like a handshake on DNS. I don't really know. To be honest, I don't know the answer. Um,
Okay,
I
no
think we
problem,
might have had a
man.
whiteboard at some point where we just had a bunch of names and we're putting out, like, and handshake just kind of stuck.
Okay, that's cool. Or I'll mark it answered. Why no competition name base? I mean, I don't know if you can answer it,
Yeah, I
but maybe
don't
you have
know. I
a
have no
reason
idea with
why.
that. I didn't. Yeah, no, I didn't have anything to do with founding Namebase or anything, and then why there's no competition. I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
if anybody's building another type of Namebase or any of these things. Yeah.
Again, like just to reiterate from my perspective, like yeah, like Andrew said, I started actually this Handshake Conference, HandyCon started on a podcast I did with Jahan after I saw his .nft news. I invited him on my blog podcast, Global from Asia. It's on. It's not even and then in the interview he says, why don't you just I said how I do events. He said how he did Ethereum meetups in Hong Kong and stuff. And I said, let's do it. And we did it. And in 2 weeks
Yeah.
we did first HandyCon. And name base, I believe the story was, a lot of people know Tieshun, and I think Anthony Liu was the CTO co-founder and others. And I guess they raised funding. I think some of the funding was similar investors as Handshake, but yeah, like anybody could start a competitor with Namebase if they wanted to. And people complain about the Flamingo auction, like why their name isn't included in the auction. They submitted a good name, blah blah blah. They complain to me or other people or vent on Twitter. Anybody could start a Flamingo handshake auction. There's not like only
Yeah.
one, and others have done live auctions. So there's no permission. That's the whole point of a permissionless protocol. So let's see what else. So that's answers
And
most of the
I'll add that
questions.
there's been like Mount Gox didn't have too many competitors for a really long time either, until they started like kind of having problems, and so yeah, Coinbase, TradeHill, these kinds of companies emerged several years after Mt. Gox kind of got founded. So yeah, Mt. Gox enjoyed a monopoly for a while.
Okay, next one getting voted up there before is from ABCD. I know some people don't like air meat, man. All right, I know there's a lot of anonymous, but you can just put ABCD, whatever, man. Was it beneficial to give away all raised money? Did it bring any expected results?
Well, I mean, the giving away money part, like on all aspects, all dimensions of Handshake. So not only did we give fiat away, we gave away the coins. Like everything was given away without expectation for anything in return. And so I mean, yeah, and I think there's been discussions around that, and I think there's a few projects like Gnome and things like that blogged about Handshake, about their donation and things like that, and others just really didn't do much with it. And Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was kind of one of the primary philosophies, or maybe it's an experiment kind of going into it, but the expectation for no returns, we didn't ask anything in return, so I don't think they did anything wrong, because we didn't ask for anything. But yeah, so I mean, um, did it have the expected results? I mean, really, it was. I don't know. I don't think we had too many expectations of it. So, I mean, we just gave away the
How
money.
much
They
was
took it.
it?
That was
And
it.
I know we could check the white papers and such. Was it how much? Or did you just say just maybe 18 million? Was it, or what was it?
No, it's 10.2 million that we raised, and we gave away 10.2 million exactly.
Yeah. So just give a couple of groups. It went to like the GitHub developer airdrop was a bigger chunk,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
so there's fiat, and then there's the coins. So
oh
the
the
largest person, so the fiat, of the 10.2 million.
oh sorry
I mean, you can
sorry.
still see it on handshake.org, like the sponsors or community page or something like that. There's a whole list of them. They were mostly open source nonprofits, as well as kind of like organizations that kind of advocated for it, like EFF, Linux Foundation, these kinds of things.
Okay, so yeah, even I'm yeah. So there's two parts. There's the coin, which also has the airdrops, but then there's
Yep.
actual funds, which you just gave away. You know, I mean, there are some hardcore people, and like we've seen some pretty raw like memes on Twitter, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's a much different style than other blockchain domain competitors that took VC money and paid Facebook and TikTok ads or whatever, right? So it's a totally different strategy. Um, and sadly, those ones get short term benefit, but I guess hopefully the long term as this stands the test of time. And some people might not agree with that, but I think it's beautiful. It's attracted me to this project, personally. I mean, I think some people are attracted to the idea of giving money to open source developers and nonprofits to because that's what it's about. I don't want to live in a world that is Facebook and Google owned. You know, it's a
Yeah.
scary world.
Well, I mean,
So
and also this type of conference, like I think if we had kept the money and kept it in some foundation, it would be like our responsibility to hold these kinds of things. So there is, and like for example, DevCon and all the ETHCon and those kinds of things are also conducted by the ETH Foundation. So they still kind of have that responsibility, but also like
yeah,
leads to some centralization, I guess. In that they're
like
the only ones kind of like
Brantley,
holding
our
these
buddy
things.
Brant.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
Brantley. Like he even says the airdrop is responsibility. I remember he was saying that on Twitter when they airdropped ENS to people, and yeah. So by taking that money and making foundation, because you guys are pretty much against making a. I remember I'm not so early, but I came in 2020, and I remember there was resistance to making foundations, raising money. Even the first HandyCon, there was discussions about making foundations. But I feel like it's kind of like anti-Bitcoin, whereas Ethereum is a little bit more about like a little bit more, yeah, like you said, a little bit more about organization. I'll just say maybe. So
yeah.
you guys are
There's
really
trade-offs.
built.
Yeah, there's trade-offs as well. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'm looking at, I think so. Vita Ridgway, she's up here. She's great. I don't know if you saw her talk. It's really great. We need more women, and I've encouraged more women to share. Thank you, Vita. I hope that's not almost negative because I don't want to just highlight that you're a woman, but I appreciate that. Andrew, what is your vision for Handshake? Where would you like to see it go as far as use cases?
Yeah. So, Handshake just kind of generally being a censorship resistant technology. Um, I tend to think that a lot of the use cases revolve around kind of use cases where use cases that are prone to censorship, or use cases where people would want to censor. Kind of saw that. I mean, what like if you kind of see the evolution of Bitcoin adoption. I mean, when I first got interested in Bitcoin, I mean, Silk Road was a pretty powerful kind of demonstration of like, hey, this is censorship resistant money. And so I mean, I can't. So what would that be for Handshake? I mean, it's hard to tell. But I do think, like these people who are getting canceled, deplatformed, things of that nature, I think are a good place where, like where there's value in having, censorship resistant name or censorship resistant website. And so yeah, I mean, I think since Handshake launched, like I think there's been a lot of acceleration on that front in terms of like cancel culture and things like that. So
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think we're
yeah,
all starting to see it, and it's going to get more and more clear, in my opinion, of
yeah,
censorship increasing, which is scary.
yeah.
um, is that we have more? Sorry, I don't want to cut
Yeah, I
you
think we have
off.
a lot of questions here.
There's more and more coming, and some are getting upvoted really fast, which is great. That's helpful. Please keep the votes so it makes my job a little bit easier. I really want to get the top questions to be asked. And we will extend this to be 40 minutes total. I mean, I don't know how much longer, but it will go a little bit past. It'll be the 40-minute time that we had allotted, pushed back. This one moved up pretty quickly from Robert Reich. Sheikh Stats, younger guy in Australia, really
yeah.
passionate, been very involved. Um, is the growth of the ecosystem currently exceeding your initial expectations?
Well, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think as people who kind of participate in the creation of these networks, I think your like most of the time the expectations are pretty wrong. Like for example, uh, Satoshi like wrote a white paper about like peer-to-peer money, right? And in terms of that, like if Satoshi were around and you asked him like, hey, has that like actually happened? I don't know. I mean, despite it growing to like a large value, hundreds of billion-dollar market cap, I mean, maybe he kind of saw that going with Silk Road and like during the early days when it was used as money more. But then it's kind of declined and turned into more the store of value kind of narrative. So I, mean, I think the expectation part is kind of is hard to assess. But I mean, but one area is like the airdrop. Developer airdrop, the claims have, I think somewhere around 2-3%. I certainly expected that to be higher, in terms of like that aspect of things, because um, but yeah, I mean, I do think that's something to kind of consider for the community to kind of consider. Um, uh, but in terms of growth of the ecosystem, I didn't really have like I didn't necessarily have any too many expectations other than I did expect the airdrop claims to be high.
I guess one thing about the airdrops, because I've had friends claim I didn't, I'm not, I didn't qualify, but some of my friends did, and they didn't have the key. They didn't remember their keys from that time, and they jump in
Yeah.
Telegram, and I don't honestly, I don't know how GitHub worked, but they couldn't get it, even though maybe they
Yeah,
didn't
yeah. So their
qualify.
SSH key, they lost their SSH key or they rekeyed or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that as
Something
well.
about their key changed, yeah, so they didn't have the old key. Um,
But oh
uh,
yeah, to one thing I did add, I would add, like the growth from the domain kind of community, like the domain, like I think that was unexpected on the upside. Like I didn't we weren't really necessarily thinking about that too much. Maybe had we would have kind of designed the airdrop or something a little differently. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it was kind of relatively mixed. I expected higher on the airdrop claims, but didn't expect kind of the interest from the domain community, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think it was a lot of people found out from NamesCon. I think early in NamesCon.
Yeah.
I heard about it from the domain community. I'm not. I mean, I'm more e-commerce seller, but I friends are in the domain space and keep me informed. And I think it got from these events. Uh, but yeah, okay. I'm looking for other top voted questions not answered. Looks like the next one is ABCD again. Do you participate in Handshake these days? If not, do you think it would be more responsible to keep participating in Handshake instead of kind of fading? I guess that's also can be reworded as why are you and other co-founders not at least publicly as active? And some people see that as like, I guess it's negative, positive or negative, but that's the
Yeah, I mean,
question. Is
one thing we noticed with other projects is like the founders do, or like the creators or co-creators or whatever the term is, they do kind of, if they are active, they do tend to kind of suck the energy and out of the system. I mean, to the point where they're kind of like the focal point, like Vitalik is for Ethereum, or actually you could probably name it and point to any project, and kind of it usually has kind of these dynamics, and that from our perspective hinders kind of the like decentralization and these aspects of it. Yeah, I mean, I've been buying. I have names. I definitely I follow the Telegram. I see it. All the new cool things that are being built. I mean, but it's mostly just kind of out of personal interest. I don't I don't feel like I have a obligate like a mandate or anything like that to do that. But on the other hand, I do still find it interesting. I hold all the coins, and or I haven't sold any coins. I'm still very interested in this project, and kind of like that aspect. So, and I think that's the same for all the other all the other co-founders too.
okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I mean, it's mixed feedback, but I kind of agree that if the creators were active, it would discourage people from stepping up. Although I wish more people would step up because it's kind of even happening to me, right? Like I'm active, and people are like, I guess it's human nature. Like they want to have somebody to like a person to
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
look at and blame or ask. It's
yeah.
like I think it's human nature to say, "Oh, this person's responsible, and I will ask this person why not this, why when they could." Of course, everybody's busy. We're all busy. I'm busy, but okay. Thanks for your
Yeah, I mean,
answers.
I think Satoshi had the right model, and then once you like to just kind of step away, like Vitalik, I don't know if he feels stuck in this, stuck. Like, what if Vitalik just stopped tweeting and stopped writing blogs and these kinds of things? So like, I don't know if he feels a little stuck with it. I don't really know, um, but yeah, I do think if you want a decentralized project, the founders should have to kind of or like need to step aside so that other people can kind of get the spotlight, and other people can kind of feel the yeah, I don't know, like, yeah, but I do agree. I think that's important.
Okay, HNS broker. Thanks, HNS broker. He's really always helpful. Been around longer than me. He says, "Who designed the logo?" You might not know, but maybe you know.
Oh, I do
Yes.
know about that. It was a design firm, IDEO. IDEO. They also they designed I think legend has it that they designed the mouse. But yeah, IDEO designed for
Cool.
Apple. Yeah.
Great. Mark is answered. Next one is Ricardo Rothschild. He came in later. He talked yesterday. He's buying his way in. Appreciate and iterating his projects to make it fit here. Do you think we should extend the claim period for reserve TLDs?
Yes. So for people who aren't familiar, I mean, those are like the 100,000 Alexa names, like So if you can prove you own like google.com, then you can get like .google, this kind of thing. I believe it expires maybe at the first halving.
For
But
4 years. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, which
yeah.
is, I don't know if it's the
So
happening. It's
yeah, I definitely do think that should be extended. Otherwise, I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose. Yeah.
yep. Okay. Yeah, I think that's kind of been consensus so far.
I mean, one thing I would add though is like maybe if there was kind of like an extension for those names, maybe like instead of having the top 100,000 Alexa, maybe like limiting it to like the top 10,000 or something. Or something of that degree, because I do think the bottom ones do kind of like
Yeah,
they aren't
there's
the
been
most popular websites anymore.
some people
Um,
have been scooped getting expired,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
they have
yeah. So there's a lot of like
to.
churn and those kinds of things on at the bottom of the list. But yeah, the top 100, maybe I don't know if it's somebody should look at
I
that
mean,
list. But like,
yeah, I mean, to let Google go and then somebody gets to handshake Google, like, yeah, that would not be
yeah,
effective.
yeah. So maybe like the top 1,000, maybe the top 10,000, but something of that sort. Yeah.
Okay, great. Trying to keep track here. Alex Nito, yeah, product designer at Namebase, and also made the app HNS Switch.
Yeah,
Which
yeah. Very cool.
was
Very cool app.
really cool. Yeah, great app. Thanks. He says, Andrew, what was/is your vision of the utility of HNS? I'm not sure if he means the coin or the protocol, but that's the question. I
Um,
think it was kind of asked already, but maybe.
yeah, maybe it's similar. I mean, I think there's kind of two use cases, either for domains or for like identity, and they may be a little different. I think Handshake does as a protocol accommodate both. In terms of where I see, it's hard for me to tell. I don't I'm kind of indifferent as to like where it kind of takes off. But yeah, I think yeah, either of those use cases I guess makes sense.
Okay, great. Mark answered. Pay from Dot Domain Owner sponsor here. Also, OG Bitcoiner from, I don't want to expose more, he can say himself, but thank you, Pay. As a POW blockchain, how big of a hash rate Handshake has to be considered secure?
Um,
I guess maybe another way of saying that, some other competitors, alternatives say pick on POW or they pick on our hash rate, and they say, see, look, it's this insecure, blah blah blah. They pick on it because the hash rate, especially in the bear market in the early stages. Um, anyway, that's the question. I'll let you try your best.
yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, so like the 51% attack kind of idea, like is a little different for proof of work versus proof of stake, right? If you have 51% of like the majority of like staking validators, or however you phrase that for proof of stake, there's a lot more you can do with than 51% of proof of work chain. Like just because you have 51% of Handshake chain doesn't mean you can like reverse name ownership or reallocate coins or censor transactions. Well, I mean, just only kind of temporarily. Um, I mean, I don't have like a number in mind if that's in terms of like where I think that will kind of work, but yeah, I mean, I do think like the design expected switching from like the initial hashing algorithm that was in the paper to SHA-3 or like I mean, I generally there was a debate about that, and I do think we kind of expected ASICs to evolve either way, and so yeah, I don't have a specific number in mind or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Stephen Mackey's also was involved, at person and with this, and he speaks a lot about it. But I think people, like you had said, I think there's specific competitors. I don't even want to bring up their names, but they specifically say in their homepage of their website that Handshake is not secure. Like straight up, they just straight up say it on their homepage. I think some people might know who I'm talking about, but I don't feel like even saying their name. They say Handshake is the biggest alternative to our solution, but we are better because we're on Ethereum, and Handshake is insecure because it's layer one proof of work with a low hash rate, and they are not secure. basically is what the person says, the creator of that project, and he uses that constantly. As
Oh
a
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if a multi-sig is much better, but held by a few parties is much better. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
yeah,
I mean, everyone
I
can have
guess
their
we're
own.
obviously on that side, and there's people on the other side. So pay again and getting another one top voted. Can Handshake fit into Bitcoin maxi narrative? Hard money and hard root, the only two blockchain usage. Why can't Bitcoiners see this? I think actually you and I chatted about this before, so this question came up.
Yeah.
You're
So
a Bitcoiner, right? You said you
yeah.
started from there. So
Yeah. Well, so Bitcoin, I think the like Bitcoin maximalism, generally as an idea, I think is a reaction to seeing like in the first version we're like back in the day when there was just like Bitcoin forks, like Litecoin, Feathercoin, this coin, that kind of thing. Bitcoin maximalism was kind of this like reaction to that, saying like, hey, Bitcoin's the only, like, Bitcoin is the true coin in that, from that perspective. And it's also, I mean, so that reaction, if you kind of trace it back, came from other coins that were basically doing the same thing as Bitcoin, right? So they were kind of like, if you think about Bitcoin, Litecoin, really, like, or Dogecoin, like, how different are they? It doesn't, those new forks didn't really add like any other kind of utility, right? But then, like, the second wave of like other coins, like non-Bitcoin coins, with like Ethereum and ETH killers and ERC20 tokens and things like that. And so, like, I mean, I think then, like, that argument is a little different because, well, Ethereum is different. It can do things that Bitcoin can't. So then it's like, well, all those other things are Ponzi's, or all those other things are centralized. And, maybe there's some points there, but not like completely. I mean, I haven't really, like, when I talk to like Bitcoin maxis, I'm not talking about like the Bitcoin maxis. It's like, I understand like the Bitcoin maxi perspective if they were like, like from like 2012, 2013. I don't know, anything before like 2017, right? But the post 27 Bitcoin 2017 maxis are like, well, they see Ethereum, they see other functionality, but like it's Bitcoin only, right? And that perspective, I have a hard time kind of like understanding. But like the original, like, hey, the original Bitcoin thing where like, hey, you can't just fork Bitcoin and make another coin and like, and and say, that has Bitcoin values. I do sympathize with. And but so with the, kind of like the way I would think about that is like, well, Handshake is different. Handshake does offer different values or different utility compared to Bitcoin. And Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you can do with the post like 2017 Bitcoin maxis, because I think they're mostly kind of like, I don't know. Maybe I think they like, not to call
yeah,
people names, they're kind of like midwits or something of that sort. And so, like, I mean, I think they just kind of see the Bitcoin maxi flag and just want to belong or something. Um, but um, but yeah. But in terms of like, yeah, I mean, like, for example, I've talked to like a lot of Bitcoin maximalists, and when I present Handshake, they do understand that it's different. That they do understand this is something that can't be done on Bitcoin, and they do kind of see value of it. Yeah, I mean, I've recently spoke with like the Nostr guy, the lead dev from Nostr, and they're like completely Bitcoin maxis over there. But like with Handshake, like they definitely agree this is a better system than the ICANN domain name system. So I definitely think you can reason with a lot of Bitcoin maxis. It's
cool.
but the yeah.
I think Superlink has gotten Noster, if this is the same one, support or integration, I believe, or I heard something. I hope I'm not. I don't want. Just so I've seen, I haven't verified that one. Okay, we got a little bit more time. Colin Burke, Block Domains, got a voted one. Do you own any TLDs? If so, what's your favorite besides your own name, if applicable? I guess you don't have to answer that, but I guess
Oh, wait, what was the question? Do I have a
you asked
favorite
about like
name?
what domains or TLDs you have, and if what's your favorite or whatever. I guess everybody's curious if you have domains on Handshake or which ones or what's your favorite. And I think you kind of
Yeah, I
say
mean,
optional.
I do, but I think like exposing them is kind of like outside the purpose of it. I mean, outside, I don't know. I don't really know if I want to dox the names I have,
Yeah, you
but if
don't
I
have
do
to.
anything with
You don't
them,
have
but I'll definitely like let you
Yeah,
guys
I
know.
like that. I mean, that's the point of Handshake is privacy. So, okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Mark. Of course, people can share what they want, but don't have to. ABCD again. This guy's got a lot of good ones. Who's on the core team these days, or maybe even define what does core team mean as a definition. Um, I I think there's been some concern or questions like, you mentioned Zipkin. He's not been around. I've talked to him, but I guess what does core team mean? Even what does that even mean? And who are they? That's maybe a question to
Yeah,
ask.
yeah. So usually this idea of core team refers to the team of developers that work on the reference implementation. And so this is a very developer focused kind of question. And so like who's maintaining, I guess, HSD, or who's working on HSD. That you can just go on GitHub and kind of like see who's working on it and who's like contributing into it. Yeah, I think Zipkin did a lot, and I think Nodar is doing quite a bit of work. But I haven't really, I haven't really been kind of well, okay, all right. So on this core team thing, and I see this on Twitter too, like especially coming from like Electric Capital and things like that. They have like a dashboard on, who's working on these developers and GitHub merges and GitHub like I guess they just scrape that kind of data and see, and but like that metric alone, like I think is a little misleading because and I tried to like kind of I think posted this on Telegram, but it's probably worth restating.
I think, yeah, I was
So
going to bring up.
crypto's changed a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah. So crypto's changed a
no,
lot since it's like, not every project in crypto has kind of the same ideals of like decentralization and these kinds of things. So I personally think, this is a personal belief, like that like Handshake, like yes, of course, like like okay, if you even if you go back and think about how much Bitcoin's changed and how much the core team, the core developer team, dev team has like worked on Bitcoin core, like it's, in terms of like actual like features and things that they've released, it's been pretty minimal, right? We had Segwit in 2017 and like Taproot and this kind of stuff recently. And those are, I mean, those aren't like big changes that people are like using, I guess, with the exception of like ordinals now, which they don't like. So I don't know, that's a little odd. But yeah, I mean, so in general, I think like crypto should be thought of like, I don't know, there should be some kind of bifurcation between projects that are like kind of complete and projects that they're still working on. Because of course, if you track developer activity, projects that are like people are still working on are going to have more developers because they're still working on it and trying to finish it. Whereas like Handshake, like Bitcoin, was kind of released as a finished protocol. I mean, all the features are built in. There's no like, hey, like we got to write more code to make this happen, and hey, we got to. Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff doesn't exist. And so, unless there's like an actual need for changes, like need for new things to happen, like I don't really understand the argument that like a core team of like active developers that are paid by the community or wherever like has to exist. Like and that's more like a Bitcoin like kind of perspective. Whereas like Ethereum, I mean, they just moved to proof of stake, and that required a lot of developers. They have a long roadmap of things that they still want to do, and so that'll require more developers, and so it's like an incomplete product, at least from their perspective. So like, I mean, like, look, I guarantee if Handshake, if there were more features and things that people wanted to do with Handshake, I assume we would need more core developers, and these kinds of things would be necessary. I think projects like Bitcoin and Handshake are more like what needs to happen is more on the adoption side, as well as like building use cases, building things on top of it, integrations, etc. Um, and that's a bigger priority than kind of those projects that are still being developed.
Okay, great. Yeah, you did say in a Telegram group. Andrew's, I don't want to say active, but you participate in the main Handshake Telegram group when there's questions that. And so I remember you had said you said I'll just summarize what how I interpreted it, but you said there's two ways that a blockchain can come out. One is product's already done and it needs marketing, and the other is it has. You even gave the terms, but I thought that was a good little paragraph.
Yeah,
I think
it's a
is
yeah, adoption in progress and development in progress. So yeah, like Handshake, Bitcoin are more like adoption in progress, whereas a lot of other projects are like development in projects. That's why they have the foundations. That's why they have developers as employees. That's why and that makes sense. But like but yeah. I mean,
yes.
initially crypto wasn't like that.
Yeah, so Handshake came out working, right? Like I don't know, everyone wants like to watch GitHub and see developers and see a centralized foundation with money hiring programmers and watching how many people are contributing to GitHub to see if it's an active project that's not dead. But Handshake came out working already. There's been some modifications and some like little holes that have been plugged over the years that
Yeah,
have
bug
been
fixes.
documented,
Yeah.
bug fixes. But you don't need to have a huge team. It's I don't want to say boring, but boring is Bitcoin's boring, right? It's just money, right? I mean, Handshake is just a root zone. There's not much more that needs to be done on it. I mean, so I mean, I kind of I'm drinking the Kool Aid, but I kind of see the same thing. But it's funny. It's again back to human nature. Humans want to have something that's not yet released, and they're buying into
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
product coming soon. When is product? And then they're
Mhm.
hyped in and then they buy into something that's not yet released. But Handshake was working from mainnet, right? It was a working project, like you said. So it just needed
So yeah, so I
adoption.
mean, I think we can still have things like that are built on top. Like I guess like Namebase had demoed and previewed a bunch of features that are coming out, and there's anticipation building up for that. Superlink Superlink, I like I had similars, and so I mean, I do think we can kind of build that kind of similar type of anticipation, but at the protocol level, I mean, it's just Bitcoin Handshake. These things are relatively boring. And it should be because you don't really I mean, they're yeah, it's kind of like the Lindy effect and these kinds of things. Like the longer they're around, the more they're going to be trusted.
Yeah. So I hope this is helpful. Let me see. I think we're at kind of at maybe over time a little bit, but I think I got most of it. They're still not top voted, but let me see. I saw one about collisions from Alex that kind of got moved up to like a 6 vote. I Yeah, it's about collisions. So what do you think about these collisions? There's other blockchain projects coming out. I know the protocol Handshake was designed not to collide, especially with the current ICANN. There was one or two a little bit slip through the cracks or whatever, but I know Handshake wasn't designed to collide. There was that I like that clip with JJ last time or two about the soft fork of the internet, but there's collisions now. There's collisions. There's people popping up blockchain projects for fun every week. I see people talking about it on Twitter, opening up a new blockchain project, domain project. Um, so, what do you think about all of that?
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of funny because we had a name collision like just from the onset. Like there's two Andrew Lees on this project.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
yeah,
that's
I
a good
think
point.
yeah, I think like collisions are just they're going to be inevitable. I mean, I don't know. A lot of the like dot wallet or dot crypto or dot coin, right? Or those like the UD ones. Like I think people will see through it and like see what you can and cannot do with these kinds of coins and how they work. I think future collisions are probably inevitable in the design. Yes, just because like for browsers it would be kind of confusing if you went to yeah, like other if we collided a lot with like ICANN domains, like it would be hard to kind of understand like how the browser would handle it or different resolvers would handle it. But so yeah, we try to minimize collisions as much as possible, but like since launch, I do think collisions are probably inevitable. And yeah,
Yep.
and probably not a big deal.
Yep. Okay. I mean, there's a few, but I don't feel like they're not upvoted and not they're somewhat answered already or not really worth bringing up. But I guess we're at time anyways. So thanks, Andrew, really for sharing. And any other last points you want to bring up?
No, I
I'm
mean,
seeing.
mostly I want to thank you for hosting this. I mean, on an annual basis, I do think these types of things are important. Like I've been thinking about, like, I mean, again, I'm not like the adoption marketing kind of specialist by any means, but I do think like rituals are important. Having built some companies and things like that. I mean, what is a company without, like, weekly meetings and monthly meetings and quarterly reviews or like stand-ups and things like that? And so without that, you don't have much like cohesion. I mean, religions. What's a religion without Sunday service or Shabbat
Mhm.
dinner or what have you? And so, yeah, I think this annual ritual, I think, has been amazing. Thank you for hosting this, and thanks to
Yeah, we had
your
no
entire
problem.
team for doing this. Yeah, but I mean, in general, I'd like to see. I think the rings idea is really cool.
Yeah,
And I hope a lot of people can
Jahan's
get that
actually he's the one
going.
that came up with the word rings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, and then yeah, and thanks to everybody. Thanks for everybody for being here and being excited about Handshake. Yeah,
Adoption in progress. Yeah,
yeah,
adoption in
for sure.
progress. Yeah, I think you might see the chat box, but yeah, people are really happy, and we are going to keep pushing. I mean, we want to do it in person this year. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I almost think it's been 3 years online and it can be much more easily globally accessible, but we might try it. But the rings, yeah, I think rings would be a good way for people because that's what Jahan says from his Ethereum experience, organizing Ethereum meetups in Hong Kong and doing the meetups was a really good way for adoption for Ethereum in the early days. I think he said 2014 or so. I agree. I mean, Vitalik also was traveling all over the place. Uh, Doing that. So let's try to use this rings idea. You can see it's HandyCon.xyz/rings. We've got a whole bunch of applications all around the world, and we're lucky to have Anne. I want to shout out Anne. She's on works in our company, our day job in marketing, and she's fallen in love with this, and she's already hyped up to help with the rings. So yeah, okay, Andrew. Well, I think we'll wrap up. I think we'll close this session. We'll do one more closing. I'll just go on and thank sponsors and such, and then we'll call it an event. All right,
Cool.
and
All
everybody
right.
saying
Thanks.
thank you. So thanks again, Andrew. Really.